All right, so this is how to read your prospect's mind and close more sales, bigger sales faster than ever before through the use of something called neuro-linguistic programming. Has anybody, quick show of hands, anybody in the room heard of NLP before? A few people, all right. For the rest of you, this will be an introduction. And neurological process, your brain. Linguistic, the language you use. And the programming, how it affects your behavioral patterns. So what you can accomplish with NLP is rapid, effective change of patterns of mental and emotional behavior, which is what we all ultimately want. It was created back in the 1970s by two guys named Richard Bandler and John Grindler. They had worked with a very famous hypnotist who had recognized specific word sentence structures of how people were thinking. Like this very famous hypnotist, like you would go in for a session, you would have a conversation about your dog for 20 minutes. You'd be like, when's the session going to start? You're like, no, it's over. And you'd walk out and you would have quit smoking. Because of waking hypnosis, because we all go into hypnotic trances all day, whether you realize it or not. You're driving down the highway and you zone out on the yellow line. That's a hypnotic trance. You're watching a movie and you forget to go check the oven and you burn something because you were in a trance.
Also inspired by Milton Erickson.
Milton Erickson would be the hypnotist I was referring to.
Sure.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So what can you do with NLP? And this is a oversimplification. I am not certified in NLP. You can go take 20 years of courses. I'll give you what I've done that works. You can do with it what you want. You can eliminate negative beliefs that are holding you back, or somebody else's negative beliefs. You can get rid of undesirable behavior or thought patterns. You can get rid of bad habits and get good ones. You can communicate to others the way they actually think, and you can influence others to do what you want, which is ultimately why we're all here. So there are three things you need to determine. You need to determine if they are a towards or away from person. There are two types of people. People do things for only two reasons. You are either doing something to move towards pleasure, you think it will make you feel good, or you are doing something to move away from pain. So an example of this would be, would you rather make $10,000 or prevent someone from stealing $10,000? Think about your answer. If you picked prevent stealing, you're an away from person. If you picked I would rather make $10,000, you're moving towards pleasure. So that's one of the ways that people are motivated. So if I am an away from person and all you're telling me is how fabulous this is going to make my life, I'm not going to buy. If I'm an away from person, you need to tell me how it's going to get rid of problems and eliminate pain in my life, and then I will want it. Does that make sense? So a question to determine that, because you're not really going to say, okay, the financial advisors could go, would you rather make $10,000 or avoid losing it? But the massage guy isn't going to say that. He could say it to Brookstone, but he's not going to say it to someone on the table. Hey, by the way, since I'm rubbing you. So, what do you want out of working with X? X is what you do. What do you want out of working with a golf coach? Well, my buddies are always making fun of me because I'm the worst golfer in our foursome. I want to not get laughed at anymore. Not get laughed at, moving away from pain. If it was, I want to shave some swings off my golf course so I can be better, I'm going to have more fun playing golf, I'm moving towards pleasure. Do you see the difference? So there's your first question. What do you want out of working with a financial planner, a golf coach, a website designer, whatever, a mortgage broker, whatever it is? Do they have an internal or external frame of reference? So this is like, for example, Tina, you are a coach. So I am pretending I'm asking you to play one of your clients. Role play with me. You are one of your female entrepreneur clients. I'm Tina. What do you want to get out of working with a coach?
I want to make more money in less time doing what I love.
Okay. So more money, doing what I love. Our hypothetical client is a towards person, towards pleasure. Now, how will you know that I've done a good job coaching with you?
Because I'll have more freedom.
Okay. Our hypothetical person has an internal frame of reference. I will have more freedom. Internal. She will know. She will feel it that I've done a good job. If she said, because my bank account will be $123,426, that's external frame of reference. That's something outside of herself that tells her she should be happy with me. You see the difference? Internal or external. How do you know? So one of the questions we ask, we do this too, is a year from now, what would have to happen for you to think you made the smartest decision ever by hiring us? And then, how do they think? Are they visual, auditory, or kinesthetic? So I'm going to bring up some volunteers for an example, and then we're going to work on some exercises individually. So I need 2 volunteers. So the reason I'm using 2 of them is because one of them is going to be a witness, because you can't see because you're sitting back there. So it won't just be me saying it. So Dave is going to ask Mike a question. The question should be something along the lines of what we're talking about.
Tell me about your parents.
Right, Sigmund Freud. Okay, and I'm going to tell Dave something before, in secret. Okay, so Dave asked Mike a question. Mike, look at Dave, answer the question.
This is any question under the plan.
Something like what we're talking about.
Okay, do you think you're a kinesthetic person?
Yes. Okay, so the reason I had to ask him ask that question, and it didn't matter what question he asked, and it won't matter what question you ask your prospect. What did his eyes do when you asked the question?
They went to the right first and then up and to the right.
Okay, the eyes are the answer. When they said the eyes are the mirrors of the soul, they were right. So here is how you interpret eye talk. And I have to warn you, if you do this too much, people get weirded out. You can't be too obvious, and you cannot tell them that you're doing it. See, I made the mistake because I get excited and I like to share with my significant other, and those of you who know my wife, you can't tell her this. But I made the mistake of telling her, hey, I'm learning this cool NLP stuff, and I showed her some of it. Now, if I say something, it'll take her a second, and then she'll, like sometimes if we're having a fight, she will say, stop looking in my eyes. Or she'll say, how come you can't read my mind better? Aren't you supposed to be a mind reader? So it can backfire. Okay, so this is the eye chart. So if their eyes go up, they are a visual person. And we'll talk about what right and left mean in a minute. If their eyes go sideways, they are auditory. If they go down, they're kinesthetic. If they go, and this is them facing you, so don't get confused with your right and your left. This is the right side, that's the left side. If they move to the right, they are remembering something. If they move to the left, they're imagining it. They're creating a new memory. This also works really good at the poker table. If you ask them a question while they're playing cards and their eyes go left, they're I can't give you poker advice, because if you follow it, I could be wrong, but historically they're bluffing. So if they go, so Mike's went right. What was the question you asked?
Do you think you're a kinesthetic person?
Okay, he went right and straight across. Remembered, he was thinking, am I trying to answer the question, and they went straight across, so he's auditory first. We all use all 3 senses, but we have some that are dominant. He was auditory first, and then he went where?
He went up to the right.
Up and right. So then he went visual. So he heard the question, and then he was looking in his mind for a picture of the answer. So for example, we were at a client about a month ago, and I saw that he was a visual person, and I said, paint me a picture of what it will look like when we do this for you. And he said, I'm trying to imagine the picture right now. And I knew he was doing that. It was a little too close. Like he was like, I am trying to picture it. I shouldn't tell you that I know that you're trying to picture it. So up is visual. Straight across, horizontal is auditory, down is kinesthetic. Right is remembered, left is constructing, imagining. It doesn't necessarily mean someone's lying to you. They could be trying to come up with an answer. So, we're going to practice this with each other, but how you can implement it is, okay, so if they're primarily visual based, you want to change your language to be visual. So financial planner, paint me a picture of what your retirement's going to look like. Or what do you see when you envision yourself working with a coach or whatever it is that you do? How do you see this product benefiting you? See, envision, paint, visual words. Because that's how they think, they will bond with you more. It creates rapport faster, and it will get them more likely to do what you want because they won't know why, but they will feel closer to you and they will trust you better because you're speaking their language. Does that make sense? So auditory, I have one staff member who is like 98% auditory. They're not here. But every time I tell them something, he says, oh, that sounds good. Sounds good is his answer to every question. And he knows what I'm talking about. He's predominantly auditory. It's either, sounds good, how does that sound? Or, hey, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying this. He's auditory. Kinesthetic, does that make sense to you? You're using feeling words. How does that feel? Can you get your arms around that? These aren't the only phrases, they're just a few to give you an idea. So, can you see how talking in your prospect's language could help them feel closer to you? Okay, so I did 3 in a row, you wouldn't necessarily do that, but you get the idea. So what you're going to do, what we're going to do first, is you're going to look at the person across from you, and you can't mess it up now that you know, so don't go, I'm not moving my eyes, you bastards. There's a really good part in the movie The Negotiator with Samuel L. Jackson, where he's a hostage negotiator, hostage taker, and he's negotiating with someone, and he's negotiating with the guy who's responsible for putting him in the situation, and he says, I know that you're lying about X. And the guy goes, you don't know that. And he said, yes, I do. I was watching your eyes. Don't you know what I'm doing? Aren't you a cop? Like, blah, blah, blah. We study the brain. And then, so it's a great scene, and I highly recommend you watch it if you haven't. And then it's funny because now he knows that he's watching his eyes, so the next time he asks him a question, he says, hey, I think you're lying again. And the guy goes, I didn't even blink this time. I stared right at you. So you're going to look at the person across from you. You're going to pick an A and a B. A's go first, B's go second. A, you're going to ask B a question. You're going to watch B, and B is going to answer. You're going to watch which way their eyes go. Now you can skew the questions. First of all, this presumes something, that they are mentally healthy. I'm serious. If they are biochemically imbalanced or something, their eyes will be messed, their movement will be messed up. I'm not saying anybody in the room is unhealthy, but I have had experience with some people who are, and you can't use this with them because their eyes are all crazy. That's why I call them crazy eyes. My son does this to my wife to freak her out. Like he'll go, big bug out his eyes, and she'll go, stop, you're freaking me out. And he goes, so can I have some more candy? So you're going to watch each other. You can skew the questions though. So for example, you could test, how many traffic lights did you see on your way here? It's a visual question. They should be, theoretically, they go back, up and right, visual remembered, counting traffic lights in their heads. But someone who is really auditory, like one of my employees, won't do that. It's a visual question, but he'll go back and remember, auditory, the sounds of the honking horns each time, the driver screaming, the radio song he was listening to. So you can't automatically assume people are either crazy or lying to you. You've got to do it in context. Okay, let me ask you a couple questions. Okay, so when you did the exercise, did anybody happen to watch where the person's eyes went? Where did their eyes go? Down, kinesthetic. Most of the time, that's a feeling question. It could be auditory if they were remembering what they heard while they were doing it. It could be visual if they were more focused on how she looked, but it's primarily a kinesthetic question. What did you notice in terms of reaction when the person answered the question? Granted, it's a yes or no answer. Face maybe gets flushed a little bit. Pupils dilate. I heard a lot of laughter. So again, there's a very, very good book. I had the good fortune to work with a gentleman he retired, but he was the FBI's lead interrogator. So he wrote a book called What Everybody, B-O-D-Y, Knows about what he taught at the Quantico Academy about how to interpret body language. And it's way more than anything you've ever done on body language. Any course you've ever read, this thing puts it to shame. Because literally, like he interrogated the 9/11 terror, like he interrogates the people who they're like, we gotta get the truth no matter what. And he gives stories and examples and pictures and all this stuff. And it's really good. So it's What Everybody Knows. I highly suggest getting it.
What's your name?
Somebody Google it for me, Joe, whatever, I forget. I'm busy remembering my last good experience. Okay, we're running low on time. Okay, all right, so how to establish trust in 10 seconds. Look, if I'm going to be your Income 180 coach, it's essential that you trust me. And so the question that's really important is, how do you decide if you should trust somebody? And you watch their eyes. How do you decide to trust somebody? You've instantly got if they're visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. Have you ever really trusted anybody in your life? If the answer is yes, anchor. Because they're feeling in their body trust. How did you make that decision to trust them? They're going to give you, if they're an internal or external frame of reference. They're going to give you right there if it's a towards pleasure or away from pain person. And they're going to tell you their criteria for buying without realizing it. And when you present the information back, well, as I sit here, I want you to, well, either see, blah, 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 or hear, or feel. And then I want you to say to yourself, or picture, or feel, so you can, and you fire off the anchor by touching it again. And now when every time you are saying something buying related, don't touch them 20 times in an hour. 2 or 3 would be enough. But you're anchoring, you're making them feel that trust again every time you're telling them what to, I really think you should take the 15-year adjustable rate mortgage. Boom. The reason it would be good for you is you said lower monthly payments were important for you, but you want to get out of debt. Boom. Hey, do you want to make that payment on the 15th or the 30th of the month? And you're going to talk to them in their language, auditory, kinesthetic, or visual, internal or external frame of reference, towards pain, towards pleasure, away from pain person, and every time it's something that they need to trust within reason, you fire the anchor, you talk their language, you communicate in their frame of reference, and literally in less than a minute doing this, they will trust you. And you're pointing the book out at me, so what was his name?
You got the title wrong.
I got the title wrong. What's the title?
What everybody is saying.
What everybody is saying, and
And the guy's name is Joe Navarro.
Joe Navarro, sorry, I apologize. Sorry, Joe. What everybody is saying, because it's the truth about what your body is feeling to you. Yes?
You don't have time to do a 10-second role play, do you?
Sure. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to be me. You're going to be you. So in this case, I'm presenting this as if in this meeting I will be pitching our marketing services to double her sales. Okay. Well, oh, thank you very much. Okay. So tell me a little bit about. I'm sorry. Let me start over. I believe there are no accidents. I think there's a reason that you're here today. What motivated you to invite us in?
I want to increase my sales.
Okay, great. And what would increasing your sales mean to you?
Safety, security, success, happiness.
Okay. If we're going to be your marketing firm, basically your marketing department in a box, all 39 of my employees working for you, it's obviously important given what you do, that you have a relationship of trust and confidence in your marketing firm. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Let me ask you this. How do you decide to trust somebody? Move forward.
Oh boy, how would I decide to trust somebody? I would have to feel comfortable with them.
Okay.
And I would have to believe, I would have to have some factual basis to what they're saying.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I can totally see that. That makes a lot of sense. Have you ever had a relationship with someone where you felt that comfort and security and stability?
Yes.
Okay, and how did you make the decision to trust that person?
The experiences that she gave me, her background, were very believable, and I could relate to them.
Okay.
There was a connection.
Okay. So what I want you to see as we're sitting here is I want you to really, if you could wave a magic wand and paint me a picture of what your ideal relationship with a marketing firm like mine would look like, what does that picture look like?
You need to read my mind.
Okay.
You need to guess what I wanted. And you need to show me that you could deliver results.
Okay, so what you're describing is a relationship where you could see what you're going to get, because you don't want to make a commitment unless you can actually see on paper what you're getting into, right?
Right.
Right. And you'd want to see how that was going to benefit you, how the pieces of that puzzle were all going to work together so that you could really feel comfortable about what that relationship would actually mean to you. Is that accurate?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
so I'm going to show you my 133-step marketing funnel, blah, 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 blah. Thank you for participating.
Well done.
Okay. So, there were some, you couldn't necessarily see it all, but there were some really interesting things going on while I was talking to her. So she, in this case, is very visual. She was using visual words. Her eyes went up a lot, like dramatically obvious. So either you were doing that on purpose, thank you, or it's really...
No, it's extremely visual.
Extremely visual, okay. So she's extremely visual. Mine wasn't perfect, I apologize, because I didn't have an actual presentation to give you.
Right.
But you saw how she gave you her emotional end user benefits that she was looking for. When I asked how, she was looking for comfort, she was looking for security, she was looking for stability. She wanted to see everything before she got into it. So whereas one person might want to hear me talk about the marketing plan or feel how it was going to work, it would be really important to leave her with a copy of our 133-step marketing funnel mind map along with visual examples of clients who had done it and visual proof of the results they had gotten. Would you say that?
Yeah, and I have to say, I've never met you before. I've never had any interaction at all, and you did increase the trust level. I mean, I hate to say that. I hate when marketing works on me.
So that's high praise, thank you. You hate it when marketing works on you, so that means it works. And she's defensive already. First of all, she was coming in set up by asking a question and me saying, okay, I'm throwing you under the bus. So I appreciate you letting me do that, thank you. And she was defensive because she's been sitting here learning it all. So imagine how well it works on someone who doesn't know it's coming.
So you don't always have to be physical?
No. So it's just easier to see, like on the video, people are going to see me reach for her knee. So if, for example, I was sitting across a conference table, I wouldn't lunge and grab the person. Or if it turns out they were predominantly auditory, I would use an audio anchor. So
Clicking a pen works really well.
right, audio anchor, you can click a pen. I personally don't, it works. I change my intonation, I change the way I talk. So I am normally a New York fast talker. So for an auditory person, when I'm anchoring some trust in those questions, I would ask them really slow. And I would drop my intonation. So I'd say, have you ever really trusted anybody in your life? Not in your life, in your life. So again, I'm bringing it down to earth as opposed to, I'm making a statement as opposed to even though it's a question, I'm saying it like a statement so that they answer it better. Does that make sense? And thank you for playing. Okay. Yes, one more question.
A couple other audio ones that you do on the phone.
Yes.
The little oofisms that we say when we speak, you can use those as anchors. So if someone gives you a response, you can say, when they give you a response, you can say, yes. Or if it's a
Right.
negative response, or an if you're trying
Yes.
to create calm, also can anchor a response.
Yes.
Are you going to cover embedded commands at all?
Not today, no. This by itself is a ton, and normally you could do 3 days on just this stuff.
You said the different tones, so I had a really good example.
Yes, we'll do it another time. So just a quick review, and again, this was 1 hour as opposed to days or months or years of research. Eye movement, learn how they think, and then talk to them in the way they think. Just doing that alone will do wonders for your close rate no matter how high it is. And if your close rate's 100% already, God bless you, come work for me. And it will also eliminate buyer's remorse, increase referrals, because they feel more bonded to you. They like you better. They don't know why. And if you ask them, well, he's just like me. Now, the one question that hasn't come up, which I may be reading your mind, on what it is how do you know who does what? So for example, we have a field in our CRM, customer relationship management software, on what anchor they are, on what visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. So I will look at someone's contact record before they come in and remind myself they're visual, I gotta go visual from the beginning. You don't have to go that far, but it really works. It's like a simple trick would be you find out what the person wants to, your secretary finds out what the person wants to drink. Okay, I take my coffee with cream and 2 sugars. And then next time you put it in your CRM, and then next time they walk in the door 2 minutes before, the secretary has brewed coffee, black, cream and 2 sugars, and here's your coffee just how you like it, and they go, oh my God. So it's an example of that, of, wow, you're already talking, they don't say you're already talking to me in my language, but they will resonate with it. Does that make sense? Okay. So play, have fun, yes.
So, do I understand that you're using the touch for kinesthetic individuals?
You can use it for, so they're the easiest to do, kinesthetic anchors. However, in my ideal world, if the person's visual, I'll do a visual anchor. If they're auditory, I'll do an auditory anchor. If they're kinesthetic, I'll do a kinesthetic anchor. So if you're better, you'll get better results if you customize it. But kinesthetic are the easiest when you're learning because you'll see the result faster. And it takes more practice, I think, to get good at the others.
What if you could never? I mean, kinesthetic is virtually impossible in our business. We'd never be able to do that the way we present to people. So, regardless of what
Right, if
we
it's
have
not
to-
practical, you would do the visual or auditory. You can also do kinesthetic on yourself. So when I talk about like hold your book up to your heart, so you can touch, okay, I want them to trust me, and when you're presenting and you're talking about trust, you can anchor it on yourself, and then anytime you touch yourself, it doesn't work as well as if you could touch them, but it still works. The feeling will still come up. Play with your spouses, play with your friends before you try it on clients.
But in
Don't play with your spouses?
Well,
Okay.
you can, but in workshops, you can have them self-anchor.
Right, you can self-anchor too.
Yeah,
So
them
so like if you get nervous before you get on stage, hypothetically, you could remember a time when you were completely confident and dynamic and on fire and did great, anchor it a bunch of times, and then right before you go on stage, fire your anchor, and then you're not nervous. You can do this on yourself, you just have to remember what all your anchors are. I have a file on my phone, a little note, a list of what they all are and what I'm trying to accomplish so I know. Because you don't want to hit the wrong anchor and get up and talk about your really great sexual experience. Yes?
It's actually important to say that this happens all the time. Like, have you ever had somebody touch you on the shoulder or something and it just creeped you out? It's because probably a previous anchor
Yes.
is more than them. You know, like there's ever times where
You're not always reacting to the people in the room.
Yeah, you're reacting to your whole past, and that's basically baggage.
Right.
That's the definition of how baggage is created.
Right, it's like if you were having a fight with hypothetically maybe your wife, and the conversation, something came up, and you said, honey, I never did that to you.
Yeah.
That was somebody else. You were having a fight with some guy you might have dated 15 years ago, and blaming me, or if that's an issue with your dad, has nothing to do with me, you're just taking it out on me.
Or like particular word choices or something.
Right, you sound just like my father when you say that. The emotion isn't from you, it's from dad. A really good book on NLP is called Frogs into Princes. That's more of a, this is what to do and how to do it. There is, any book by Richard Bandler is phenomenal.
Bandler?
BANDLER,
If you like Tony Robbins.
Yes.
Unlimited Power.
which is where I first started learning about it.
It also has the eye chart.
Yes. And this again will all be online on the membership site so you can get access to it.
Certain businesses, I can see how that, you know, depending on what you're doing.
Yes.
That could really work.
Yes.